Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of MPJ Album Reviews, and I am your host Nigel Matthews. Welcome to my crew, Trish, William and Simon.
Hello!
Young Ian is off, our regular Ian reviewer is off on a sunny cruise, so won't be joining us today. Anyway, but what have we got today? Ooh, we've got something unusual today, an unusual battle. So we're reviewing two albums, Pigsx7, or I like to say Pigs, with their album Land of Sleeper, and Venomous concept on the Goodship Lollipop. Believe me, it's nothing like that, I can assure you. So get out any spoilers. So how this album's going to work, we're going to review the albums, and then we're going to vote out of 5 and decide which album we would buy. But more importantly, and bigger things at stake, will any of these albums reach our hallowed Hall of Fame? Will they reach our top albums of the year even, and potentially get forward to our album of the year voting? Anyway, so without further ado, let's crack on. Pigsx7. Who the heck are they? Pigsx7. I mean, to be honest with you, I was going to put this forward just for the name of the album, the band, I should say. But who are they? Well, Pigs, also styled as Pigsx7, are a British, it's nice to say that, stoner metal and hard rock fan formed in Newcastle upon Tyne in 2012. Their debut album, Feed the Rats, was released on UK label Rocket Recordings in 2017. The Guardian listed the band as one of their top 40 newcomers of 2018. And in 2018, their second album, King of Cowards, was released, described by the Quietus as an epic and sprawling record. In April 2020, the band released their third album, Viscerals, and in May 2020, The Guardian listed the album as one of the best 20 albums released so far that year in their mid-year list. Wow, this must be going to be a fantastic experience. So Simon, tell me, had you heard of Pigsx7? Sounds like some sort of farm, but it's obviously not. And what did you think of the album?
I've not heard of them, and I'd kind of like to go back to a time where I hadn't. This album for me was 40 minutes of dirge of wall-to-wall down-tuned guitars and filthy grungy vocals. There's a few moments that kind of felt like Black Sabbath-y, but it's hard to pick out anything distinctly, as it's just constant noise, and at over 4 minutes a song, some of them nearly 7 minutes, it's just too much for me. And thankfully the album is at least only 8 tracks long. It's just not for me. I don't find it offensive, and I can listen to it and sit through it. This sort of like style of grungy stoner metal it's all right, and it has its time and place, but the style just isn't my cup of tea.
How would you describe the vocals, Simon? And I asked that question because one of the reasons I put both of these bands forward was because we talked about Growlo, and we talked about Screamo. And actually, it's neither of those in a sense, is it?
No. My way to describe it is either grungy or filthy. It's that grunge because it's just almost like a constant growl, if you will, but without actually growling.
Okay. Trish! Now,
hello.
When you joined the podcast, when I started to take you on this journey, I did say that you're going to go down paths that might not be a pleasant little stroll in the darkness, but however, did the moonlight in the dark shine for you on this album? The Land of Sleeper.
Well, I went to the land of sleep. This album has a very distorted music sound to it, and it just reminds me of white noise. It's there in the background, but you don't pay much attention to it. And with the shouty spoken lyrics, even though it's not screamo, it's more like psychedelic punk to an extent. This album didn't engage me to want to know what on earth they were singing about, and it's really not my bag music-wise. But I'm always open to listen to something new, and that's the whole point of our podcast and why we are all of different opinions. I really want to have something good to say about this album, and that there are some good guitarists in there that aren't so distorted, but that's it.
William. Pigsx7. Heard of them?
No.
And were you pleased to have heard of them? Is this album something that you enjoyed? Is this something that you would have normally? Did I take you down to pastures new?
I really liked the part when it ended. That was the highlight for me.
Really?
It was. So I really dislike grunge because, for one main reason. So people like to critique the metal genre. They say, "Oh, metal's just noise. Death metal's just noise." This is just noise. It's just there's no tone in the guitar. It's just there to be like, it's like annoying sound. The vocals aren't good. It's just like making weird screechy stuff for no reason. I want to listen to music, to hear everything. I want to hear guitar, I want to hear drums, I want to hear bass, I want to hear synth and vocals. I can't. It's just, like Trish said, it's just white noise going on in my head. And no, I also would like to go back to time before I heard this, because it was a better time in my life.
Oh, interesting. Okay. As I kind of mentioned before, when I was there wasn't a huge amount of releases, and I thought, you know what, I've got to take us. I don't want a reputation of only going down, albums that we know we're going to enjoy, and I think we need to explore different things. And it was interesting because when we talk about Screamo and about Growlo, and I'm going like, well, this is neither of them, so it's something new and different that I've not listened to before. I wonder if anybody else has. So we kind of, and then I try to match them up with a similar sounding album, which we'll go to on in a minute. And it was very interesting because I kind of almost summed it as Torco, because he didn't really sing, he didn't really growl, he didn't really scream. It was a mix of, obviously, that is that grunge sound, I suppose, with something I'm not really kind of listening to. And it was different, and it wasn't, and it was more tolerable for me than Screamo or even Growlo. I would, if you had to sit me in a room and say pick all three, I would pick this one, because at least I could understand what the hell they were saying. Whether I was interested in what they were saying is another matter. But and also it is frustrating because and I think we've all touched on it. You mentioned moments of Black Sabbath. You mentioned moments of there are moments, particularly early stage, where you go, okay, this could develop. This could be interesting. Let's see where it goes. And by the end, I didn't want to listen to it ever again because it was just repetitive, monotonous sounds with just no money. Like, I don't know, let's make the analogy that you are walking in the dark, there is a moonlight, and now and again it's patchy clouds, and now and again you get a little bit of moonlight in there, and a little bit of clarity, and you go, oh, no, it's gone again, which is a shame. I think fans of this sort of music will absolutely adore it. I mean, it is well produced, but I cringe at the fact that The Guardian listed their music as the best 20 albums, because, like, it must be a very narrow fan base that could ever possibly say that. That's for sure. Anyway, right, but let's find out if it is or will or not be as good as our second album, which is a Venomous concept with the Goodship Lollipop. I can't help myself, okay? But anyway, talking of the epitome of Goodship Lollipop, Trish.
Are you not going to tell us who they are?
Oh yes, good point. Who are you're absolutely right. Who are they? Venomous Concept is an American hardcore punk band formed by Kevin Sharp of Brutal Truth and Shane Embry of Napalm Death in 2004. Sharp and Embry were joined by Danny Herrera and Baz Osborne, who was later replaced by Danny Lakia. They released 3 albums: Radioactive Abortion 2007, Poisoned Apple in 2008, and Kick Me Silly in 2016. They've also released 2 split albums, one with Japanese grindcore band 327 in 2006, and the other with Australian mixed extreme metal band The Blood Duster in 2008. The band's name is a play on Poison Idea in the style of name-mangling Japanese hardcore acts. Ooh, now that's perked up a bit of Simon's interest, isn't it? But anyway, we're going to leave him to last. Now then, Deja Vu, talking of Goodship Lollipop, and the epitome of a Goodship Lollipop. Trish, what did you think? What did you think of Venomous concept?
Well, again, like the Land of Sleep album, this is a bit of hardcore punk, which, as we all know, is not my kind of rock music. So I don't really have much to say on this genre of rock, I guess. I like what I like, and there's rock that I don't. But I'm always open-minded on a first listen. That being said, this was listenable, and it does give you all sides of hardcore punk sound. For me, one listen was enough, but I'm sure if you're a fan of theirs or hardcore punk, then indulge yourself.
Talking about indulging ourselves, William, Venomous concept, any better? Was this more to your style?
I mean, just off the bat, the one advantage this album has is it has music, and it has instruments, and a vocalist who actually perform and play music, and placed songs in their album, which I think is a pretty good start for an album. It was alright. It's had some good sound, some good guitar work in it, decent vocals, but nothing particularly stood out to me in this album. It was pleasant enough while I listened to it, but I can't really see myself going back to this. It's not really, it's not really my sort of genre, and the kind of things I generally find myself listening to, but it wasn't offensive. It happened. I listened. Decent.
Oh, okay. So Simon, we all know you're a big fan of Japanese, everything Japanese. Did any of that description kind of ring for you at all, and did the band ring for you at all?
Oh, no, not at all. Absolutely not. So we'll discover the love of Japanese in a later episode. No, Venomous concepts. They are like a hardcore punk band, but their sound's probably closer to, I think, grindcore a lot of the time. And I just, it's the same with Pigsx7. It's a lot of grungy noise, but to me, somehow, this album seemed even less cohesive than Pigsx7 was, which is saying something. The vocals kind of reminded me of Rob Zombie, which I love Rob Zombie, but I don't like this band. And there was technical guitar work in there, but it just didn't seem to gel with the rest of the sound. It's almost like the guitarist was, almost protesting, saying like, "Look, I can play a guitar. Look, I won't hammer on. It's just not a genre I like. The album clearly has an audience. It just isn't for me."
Well, it's kind of interesting, actually. I'd put it... Well, I don't understand, William, what you're saying about vocals, because his vocals was pretty much exactly the same as Pigsx7. Really, I couldn't really distinguish between the two. It was Torco. It wasn't screamo. It wasn't growlo. It wasn't really singing. It was somewhere in between. Musically, there was slightly more variety than Pigsx7, but equally, it was, and I agree with Simon, it seemed a little bit out of place as well. At least Pigsx7 going, well, this is what we are and this is what we're about. And it wasn't the fact that even with Venomous Assault, when they changed it up, which was a welcome, it also just didn't seem to work. It was almost like, hey, I can do this. When you watch like a jazz band, and then suddenly the trumpeter will decide that he's bored and wants to go on some virtuosa, and which is totally out of context to what the rest of the band are going like, "Why have you just done that for?" You see it often in films, etc. You go like, "Hey, come on, stick to the thread." It was kind of a little bit like that, but yeah, it certainly wasn't my cup of tea, by a long shot. But I did appreciate it. I mean, it was again. I did listen to the album, and and if you forced me to, I would listen again. And I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't love it, but I certainly wouldn't hate it. I'd certainly want it to end, but unlike Screamo or Growlo, at least I could listen to it. At least I could appreciate what they were trying to do without really liking it at all. So, which I managed to get through the album. I didn't skip. I go, oh God, I hate this when it comes to things like Screamo or Growl. I just can't listen to it, or I just skip it. So yeah, I think it was a solidly well produced album. And I did like the beginning bit with the Goodship Lollipop. It was just like, it was quite cool, really, wasn't it? So kudos for that as well. So, okay, well, without further ado, possibly a bit of a damn squid of a voting system here, but let's go and find out which one would we hate the least. I think is a possibility coming out here. I'm not going to even suggest that these guys are going to get anywhere close to our Hall of Fame or our top albums of the year, but so let's dampen it down and let's find out, will it be Pigsx7 or will it be Venomous Concept who win this particular battle then? So, Simon, let's start in with you then. Pigsx7.
Ooh, let's go for a 2.
A 2, okay, and
lofty, I know.
And Venomous Concept.
I feel like I'm good with the opposite of most people here. 1.
1, okay. Right, okay, so one up for Pigsx7. Trish, Pigsx7.
0.5.
They turned up.
And a Goodship Lollipop.
1.
1. Oh, it's one apiece. Right. Okay, William. Pigsx7.
0.
0.
Of course.
0.
Upset me. Made me sad.
Oh, mate. And Venom.
Oh.
That didn't deserve a 0, but there we go. But as we say, it's pure entertainment. And Venomous Concept.
That's like a 1.5.
A 1.5.
They played music.
They did, so Venomous Concept. Well, I don't think either band deserved a 0 because I could listen to it. I might not have enjoyed it, but I got through it. I only give a 0 when I can't listen to the album at all. So I actually give both of them 1.5. I tied it off of both 1.5. So there we go. And I'm benchmarking that against Growlo and Screamo, and I did. You know, which would be a kind of a massive no-no for me. So, okay. Well, that means...
So, Nigel,
yeah?
if you go both of them 1.5, which one would you buy?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Well done, Trish.
I think I'd buy Pigs. Just for the name.
But what about Goodship Lollipop?
You want someone to come around your house, look at your CD rack, and say...
No, my daughter's into agriculture. You see, my daughter's into agriculture. She's going, and so we get to go big pigs, like as if they're a farmer. So that's why. So, but there we go. But yeah, I'd soon give it to the charity shop, but I would buy it. But there we go. So, which basically means that overall it's a tie. Well, my ties doesn't really make it a tie, so I'm going to give it to Venomous Concept on this one because I did win that 1-2-1 in effect, really. But there we go. Okay, let's tally the scores up. We've got it's going to be a whoppingly bad. That is for 4 points, so an average of 1. It's not our worst album. It's still Arctic Monkeys, which is our worst album ever rated at 0.7. So I got an average rate of 1. And then 2.5, well, 3, 4, 5 for Goodship Lollipop. I don't think many fans of this type of music are going to be listening to our podcast, but it's worth the journey, and it was definitely an interesting path to take. Will we take them again? Who knows what comes up on our journey? Who knows? Well, thank you very much for joining our grunge metal hardcore podcast of the day. Well done to Venomous Concept. Good luck to both bands. Please don't hate us too much. And hey, keep rocking out there and keep smiling. And thanks for joining us. And please like and subscribe to our channel. And if you like the show, please go to our Facebook and please share and like our post. Many thanks and all the best. And keep safe out there. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.